fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Here on the iRacing Esports Network, it's that time once again. Wednesday night is GT night in the AusNZ community. This is the Epiroc Sprint Series Australia, and we got round 8 at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, a very fast, classic circuit, which should surely provide some fantastic racing. My name is Reese Gardner. Joining me in the commentary box, David Haynes. David, it is round 8 of the championship, and the championship is looking like it's going towards Alexander Bird at the moment, but the standings are still quite close, and with the season coming into its final stages, this is where the results are going to start jigging around a bit.
Yeah, precisely. First 3 rounds were all wins for Alexander Bird, and he's managed to keep up some of that form since then, taking quite a serious chunk of points. And we come to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, and I think this is a circuit that's going to be pretty challenging. It's only got a couple of corners, so every single one of them you need to get right. So a race ahead of us of 45 minutes in Epiroc Sprint Series Australia. A little bit of warm-up going on right now for the drivers. Qualifying has already been run. And as is typical of the format in this race, there is a fuel limitation of 50%, which means that every driver is typically going to need to take a pit stop during the race. Look at the conditions here. 21 degrees Celsius track temperature. That is very cool. That is very, very grippy indeed. The wind, pretty moderate there, nothing especially gusty, just a little bit of a breeze around here in Canada. Fortunately, some slight technical dramas for Reese Gardner, and our director, Jay Kennedy, gonna jump in for the minute.
Yeah, g'day everyone. Reese has just had a couple of PC issues, so he'll be back in a couple of minutes, but I love this track, and I think, I don't remember the last time we've been here in the Sprint Series. Did we come here last season? I don't remember, but I know that every time we've had a GT race here in the past, something weird's gone on, and we've seen some really, really interesting moves and some really, really cool passing around this circuit. So it's a tough track to pass on, but when you see a move done, it is absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, precisely. We don't have to think back too far though to Scott's had a very interesting race weekend here, and there's nothing to suggest that in these GTE machines it will be too much different. We've got Porsche 911 RSRs, we've got BMW M8 GTEs, Ferrari 488 also out there, and John Peasnick is a driver that's managed to find a lot of pace in that car in recent rounds. Championship leader Alexander Bird driving the BMW, and also some Ford GTs out there as well. So we've got drivers representing all 4 makes that we've got available on iRacing.
yeah, one cool thing about this series is the variety that we have, and drivers aren't scared to have a go in the different cars. And the Ford is often seen as the harder car in this series, but we've got 3 out there for this round. There's 2 currently in the session. Oh no, sorry, there is 3. No, just 2, sorry. Thomas Hinds and Cameron Stubber. 2 out there, and be good to see how those guys go. And of course, Piesnik now in the Ferrari has found a bit of pace in qualifying, which has been run already. Piesnik and his teammate Reese Gasul were by far the fastest. I don't see Reese Gasul in the session at the moment, because he was given a penalty from qualifying, which was going to give him a rear of grid start, even though he put the car on pole position.
Interesting little development there. 25 car grid is about what we are looking for in this race. A tiny bit down on some of the previous rounds where I think the participation has been very, very, very strong this season in GT Leagues Australia, Sprint Series Australia, and 25 still plenty, especially when we consider that this circuit, I think, it's definitely shorter than Zandvoort where we were at previous times, and just 3.9 kilometers. It was in the information about the circuit earlier. If the laps come around quick, just over a minute, we might definitely see traffic come into play in the race as well.
Definitely potential, although qualifying was very, very close. The fastest time, or sorry, second fastest time, or the time behind John Piesnik, every other driver bar 2 did a 1:12, so every other car in the field is within a second. So we're on board here with Ross Rizzo practicing a pit entry. That will be crucial to get those pit entries right come race time, because you can win and lose the race in the pits in this series. It is always a big contentious talking point in this series.
Yep, no doubt. It's it comes down to that strategy and the how much time you can save on the pit lane. Very, very often in these races we see that in the first half cars might be very close together, and if one driver is saving a little bit more fuel, has a slightly shorter pit stop, can really use that to jump some positions. We always have to think about the potential for a safety car, because we seem to have seen one more often than not in the races of late here in Sprint Series Australia, and that throws a huge spanner into the works of the strategy as well. And we've seen some people gamble hard and win, and gamble hard and lose, and we definitely saw that 2 weeks ago at Zandvoort.
Yeah, Zandvoort was such a bizarre race, wasn't it? With that late safety car and Piesnik rolling the dice. He had nothing to lose, as everyone said post-race. So he did a great job. And I say, I'm just impressed there as we were on board there with Daniel Benefield in the Porsche, still on the throttle at the turning point to the the third last corner. That is quick. I know that when you're doing it in other cars, you're on the brakes fairly early. So these cars have got a lot of grip going into that third last turn, and then slowing down while turning. It's going to be interesting to see how many drivers hold on and how many mistakes are made at that corner.
Yeah, we mentioned how cool the track temperatures are right now of 21, 22 degrees Celsius. That certainly helps to be able to throw the car into the fast corners and it to really, really grip through the middle of the corners as well. So we're going to see some very late braking into some of the corners, and that might make it tough to get an overtake done around a circuit here where there's tough to get an overtake done in the best of days and the best of weather. So we'll see what that does to the field and how much importance that places on the pit strategy. Warm-up is done. The cars are going to line up on the grid behind the iRacing Porsche safety car. They do a full parade lap around here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as it's sometimes known. So a full formation lap before we go green flag racing. We'll have a look at what the grid is though, because on pole position, John Piesnik, and joining him on the front row is Ross Rizzo's second in the championship. And this is one of the stronger qualifyings I think we've seen from him in a while. He thinks of himself not really as a qualifying specialist, and we've seen him start from almost 20th in some races and then come up through the field. But row 2 is going to be Trent Thomas, and he's joined by his Trick Sim Sports teammate Alexander Bird there in 4th place. 5th is Brett Cananzi, 6th Bradley Ratu, 7th is Michael Healy, and 8th place Daniel Benefield.
Yeah, then we got the 5th row, Neil Pearson and Martin Silvassi. Corey Preston in his debut in the GT cars for his new team at EXG Motorsports. Danny Davison, his former teammate at GMSR Racing. Starting alongside him, Darren Lobb. Cameron Dance next on the 7th row. 8th row is Thomas Hinz and Richard Hunter.
Then behind them, we've got Adam Briggs. Ryan Jarek in 18th place shares that row with him. Benjamin Brook in 19th. Zach Hanlon in 20th. Quite a way down the order there for a man who was definitely in contention for this championship just a couple of rounds ago. 21st is Cameron Stubber. 22nd is going to be Darren McKenzie. And then Benjamin Johnson in 23rd. Hayden Benefield in 24th. And lucky last rounding up the back of the field, David Mulhall in 25th. And as we think about this race getting underway shortly, we've got a quick word from our sponsor.
Epiroc is like a large extended family and everyone looks after each other. This is what inspires me.
Epiroc Australia is looking for passionate people to be part of our global team and to make a real difference for our customers. If you're ready to start a new journey, visit us at epiroc.com.au. Epiroc, title sponsors of Sprint Series Australia and fantastic partners of ours. We are getting very, very ready to go racing. Just through the last couple of corners goes the field and the safety car. John Peasnick has started backing them up just a little bit. Ross Rizzo and his trick teammates behind him there. Not going to let Peasnick get too much of a jump. The green flag is out. Peasnick puts the throttle down and away he goes. Away goes the rest of the field through. Turn 1 can be very, very difficult here. Too wide most of the way through, but Peasnick has that jump into the lead.
Yeah, good start. Corey Preston's gone a little bit wide and he's run off in the dirt and lose a few spots. But Ross Rizzo has hung with Peasnick. I must say, I'm amazed at how quick these cars are looking at the moment. It's so good to see these cars here around this circuit. Peasnick, Rizzo, Bird, the front three. No real changes. Zach Hanlon's already up 4 spots at the start. He's trying to make his way through a few more. He's got a lot of work to do to try and get this championship back on track.
Indeed, from 18th now into 14th he goes, and through what's sort of the slowest section of the circuit here, 2 90-degree right-handers. Peasnick gets the power down and down the long back stretch. Rizzo, Bird, Trent Thomas all in the slipstream. Bird and Thomas switched positions on the start, but of course they started pretty well side by side. It's Bird that got the jump over his teammate in Trent Thomas, and Bradley Ratcher doing a very, very good job to stick with them as well. He's right up behind Trent Thomas, who might be under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, great jump from Bradley Rattu. He's done a great job throughout the season moving his way forward as well. So P5 at the moment is very, very quick in qualifying, also very, very quick in the warm-up as well. So he's going to be one to watch in this race. Potential to be a little bit of a curveball as we get through lap 1 fairly cleanly. The only off was Corey Preston. This is the closest fight at the front of the field in the top 5. Bradley Rattu doing a great job applying pressure to Trent Thomas, who doesn't look like he's quite got the pace in this early phase of the race.
Yeah, his teammates in Rizzo and Bird are just a little bit further up the road from him, as something is causing Trent Thomas to struggle pretty hard right now. He's side by side almost with Bradley Ratcher, and this is a difficult place to try and make an overtake. Daniel Benefield is getting checked up behind them as well and thinks about it and has very big struggle putting the power down, loses some of the ground he had to these two. Ratcher right up underneath the rear wing of Trent Thomas, picking up a marvellous slipstream here. He's going to have to go to the left-hand side. That's going to be around the outside of the coming up corner. Then that leads into the inside of the left-hander after that, and that is so brave on the brakes. All of the speed around the outside. Great move, as you do say, by Bradley Ratcher. He grabs 4th place.
Yep. Trent Thomas now is under pressure from another driver, that being Daniel Benefield. Brett Cananzi also doing a great job. He's done a great job throughout this series moving his way forward. So Benefield now trying to get that spot from Trent Thomas. Zach Hamlin has got himself up another spot. into 15th, but he's already 8 seconds back. That's going to be a tough ask. He'll be hoping for a safety car at some point to try and get him back up through the field.
I think he's taken some of the easy pickings, and now it's a lot tougher for him to try and work his way through the field. On board with Kananzi, who's looking at the battle between Thomas and Benefield in front, hoping to gain a little bit of time on them. Comes through this difficult section, downhill braking, very unsighted, and then your exit out of this corner is absolutely critical. And problem there for Bradley Ratu, who's gone and lost about 2 spots. Because Thomas has gotten back through, Daniel Benefield has come through, motion simulation replay. Ratu, this is a difficult braking zone, and I think he might have just come in a bit too hot, ended up out on the dirty stuff. That is so easy to do. Like I mentioned, it's kind of unsighted where the track goes, where the apex is there. He's just been a bit too greedy with the speed coming in.
Yeah, exactly right. Very, very easy to do, as you said, but I think he did a great job to maintain control of the car there, because it's very, very easy to lose it. I'm going to skip away because go back to the front of the field. Ross Rizzo is applying a huge amount of pressure to John Peasnick right now, but we know that Peasnick is so strong that it's going to be tough to do. As saying that, he's just had a huge slide down the hill.
Yeah, Peasnick switched to the Ferrari a couple of rounds ago. In doing so, gave up all of his championship points, but seems to be very much enjoying driving the Ferrari 488 GTE battle here between that looked like Kananzi and Ratu, and Kananzi has the inside downhill and it's the outside through the next section. Big issue for Bradley Ratu, buried hard into the tyre barriers. A little bit of contact there, I think, between him and Kananzi, and he has come off worse, Bradley Ratu, and that's going to trigger a safety car. We'll look at that after this replay. Here they come down the hill. Looks like Michael Healy behind, watching it. Just a little bit of contact, slide, wiggle, correct. And that is heavy into the tyres. That thing is buried deeper than an Egyptian mummy.
It's actually would have been tough for the guys to get out as well, because that was a huge impact. Bang, that's so heavy of an impact, and that's unfortunate for Ratu. He was doing a great job, but this safety car, a good little chance for these drivers to reset, because that pace at that start was so incredibly quick. Alexander Bird's done the fastest lap of the race. So many drivers doing 1 minute 11s. They're doing faster laps at the moment, like in the first few laps of this race, with a full tank of fuel, than what they were doing in qualifying. That's incredible.
Yeah, their track temperature just conducive to very, very quick lap times. And also, it helps Bradley Ratu in that move that he tried to put on earlier around the outside, where he just found so much grip going around the outside of another driver. Unfortunately, a little mistake cost him 2 spots, and then that little bit of contact there has ended his race. Whole field now in line behind the Porsche iRacing safety car, which is doing about 96 kilometers an hour around here. Short lap, so I think this is a yellow that will end up getting cleared a bit quicker than at some other circuits. The safety car is doing quicker speed than it does at Zandvoort, and again we're seeing that it's only a 3.9 kilometer lap around here.
Yeah, so it'll definitely make it tough for guys to use this safety car period to do a no-stop race. Probably too early to make a pit stop under this caution as well. Some guys right at the back of the field might decide to come in and take their fuel now and then splash and dash later on to gain some spots, but for the most part I don't think we'll see too many drivers in the pits under this caution period. Unfortunate caution as well, but this will be a very, very quick one, as you said, with the pace of the car, the short lap. We're going to see the pace car in very, very quickly. We'll be back green flag racing once again. That was a huge incident though, and I'm sure that race control will have a very, very good look at that later on between Kananzi and Ratu, because the heavy impact there was a huge incident.
Indeed, and even though we know it's a simulation, Bradley Ratu is okay, it's, for me, just still a little bit sickening seeing, the speed that the car then comes to a stop in that tyre barrier there. It all happened very, very quickly indeed. So
Just
one
makes
lap
you realise,
around behind the safety car.
Just makes you realise how lucky we are that we are doing a simulation, because that was real life. That would be some heavy injuries and probably some hospital visits, and hopefully no worse than that, because that was a huge impact. Seeing a few drivers in, a lot more than I was expecting. We've got Benefield in, Hunter, Hinds, Hanlon, is in. Preston, Dance, Benefield, Mackenzie and Mulhall have all come in to take a splash and dash of fuel. So those guys will be hoping for another caution that can jump them back up with a shorter pit stop later on in the race. Of course, if they do need green flag stops, and everyone does, they'll have half as long a stop. So not a bad ploy for some of those guys in the back of the field, but Benefield's probably the big surprise out of that group.
Yeah, he was the highest running driver to make the gamble on coming in for the fuel there. None of the Trick Sim Sports guys did. So, bit of a gamble there from the older of the two Benefield brothers, thinking that maybe he'll have an easier time of working through the traffic than others. That's the only thing he'd really gain out of that, unless he'd picked up a little bit of damage somewhere and decided this was a good opportunity to get it fixed. And then, yeah, it is a bit of a no-brainer for about the last third of the field to come in now. They won't lose too much of track position because they never had much to start with. And then they'll save themselves a little bit of time when they do have to make another pit stop later.
Cameron Dance, interestingly, has made a stop and taken tyres under that stop. So possibly wasn't happy with the tyre pressure with the cooler conditions, using this safety car as an opportunity to change the tyre pressures. Which, we've seen throughout this series, not a lot of drivers will change tyres in this race, so a good opportunity if you aren't happy with the balance of the car to make those adjustments under safety car and reset. Dance was a little bit further down the field anyway, so he's got nothing to lose from doing that, now in 24th position.
Yeah, of course, it does sound like that the conditions for qualifying were quite a bit different to what it is right now in the race, although I'm seeing the track temperature continue to rise. It's 20 minutes past 8 in the morning in the session, so the track keeps warming up, but the lights are out on the safety car. We said that'd be pretty quick. It was only 3 or 4 minutes. That pulls in. When will John Piesnik try and grab the jump? Well, the green flag comes out very early indeed, and Piesnik tries to put power down. Rizzo is still going to be there right behind him. Single file through turn 1. They all go. Less chaotic than we saw at the initial race start, but still big move going on into turn 2 there. That looked like it was Neil Pearson indeed behind Michael Healy and Martin Silvassi behind him. So in a bit of a trick sandwich here. Neil Pearson trying, I think, to get a move done. Didn't quite do so.
Darren Lobb also trying to take advantage here. In the top 10 at the moment, top 11, we've got 9 BMWs and 2 Ferraris. So the BMW seems to be the car of choice for this circuit. But Ferraris we've seen throughout this series and others that we've broadcast with these GTE cars have some great balance here, a great all-round car. So later on in the race, the Ferraris could come good. But Darren Lobb, look at how close he is behind Silvassi trying to take this position away.
Yeah, the Ferrari can often be pretty reasonable in a straight line, so coming down the end of the Andretti straightaway, he just didn't quite close up enough, but here's Lobb and Jarek. They stay pretty well in the order they were there, but the way that this final sequence of corners goes from right to left to right, you can try and dive down the inside at some unique opportunities. You can try and stick it around the outside and hope that becomes the inside in for the next corner. It can lead to some interesting overtaking there.
Yeah, it's such a unique circuit, isn't it? It's a very, very old school track with the way that the corners flow and you interact with the track. So it's great to see, and interesting too that the drivers are running some really different lines from what we've seen in other series as well. So thinking back to, as you said, V8 Scops, cars are running such different lines at the exit of corners than what they do run in V8 Scops, running such a wider line, using so much more track than what we'd see them use in the iRacing V8 cars. As Benjamin Johnson is around, that's a very, very awkward spot for him to be.
Most people have managed to avoid hitting him in there, but there is a bit of damage to the rear wing on the right-hand side, unfortunately. He's the last of the cars that are running. 24 cars still running, 1 retirement, just Bradley Ratu, but we'll have a look what happened to Benjamin Johnson here. Coming down the hill, the car does make a dive to the inside, just a little bit of contact made from Daniel Benefield, who's trying to work his way through the field after that early pit stop, and there's no overlap at the point of the braking, and I think he's just pushed up a little bit.
Oh no,
yeah.
Another incident. We're going to stay here on board with Zach Hanlon.
Then out Hanlon behind Benefield immediately after that, coming down the long back straight. Benefield trying to defend. Hanlon going to try and go around the outside. What happens here between these two. We know it doesn't end well. Let's have a look. Hamlin tries to hold it on around the outside.
Oh, wow.
Does it mostly by himself, I think.
Yeah. See there, that was, I believe, David Mulhall that sort of checked up behind him there and was trying to make sure he didn't make contact. Was very, very close. That's unfortunate for Hanlon. He's got a lot of work to do to close back up. Go back to the front of the field. Peasnick, Rizzo and Bird continue their little fight at the front. But they've broken a huge gap once again. Trent Thomas just doesn't have the pace that I was expecting him to have. He's not hanging with these guys. Already pulled 1.5 seconds.
Couple of developments. One of them, a drive-through penalty for Daniel Benefield. We saw that, and it's pretty ambitious down the outside. It put Benjamin Johnson around, and he has received a penalty for that one.
Yeah, no surprise there.
Yeah, not surprising, as you say. And with regards to Zach Hamlin that we saw just not long ago, I think it's because he was offline there and trying to brake, turn at the same time off the conventional racing line. He just lost control of the rear of the car. Look at another one of those drivers who took an early pit stop, hoping to come up through the field a little bit, the likes of Cameron Dance here, and you said he had a rather unconventional pit stop.
Yeah, it's surprising to see that he was the only driver that took tyres, but the only reason I can think is that he wasn't happy with the way the tyres were getting up to temperature or something like that, and wanted to take a gamble, had nothing to lose. So already making moves through the field. He's already up 6 spots from where he restarted. Of course, 3 of those were due to a penalty and 2 spinners, but that still means he's passed 3 cars in 1 lap or 2 laps, which at the back of the field, with how racy these guys are, I don't know if it's that easy to actually make passes.
Yeah, so almost a little 3-car battle going on here with Cameron Dance up behind Richard Hunter, who's then looking at Hayden Benefield. And Hayden doing a sensible job here, not opening up an opportunity to Richard Hunter, sort of backing Hunter up into Cameron Dance at the moment, though you would feel, and again, from some of these fast sweeping corners, there's a variation of lines, and something like the supercars might square off a corner like that, whereas the GT cars in these quick temperatures with a lot more downforce, really focusing on that mid-corner speed, using the grip to take a line that means that the minimum speed in the center of the corner is as high as they can possibly take.
It just looks like the cars flow so well. As I'm actually just seeing on the timing. Oh no, there's a huge crash on the straight.
Yes, and big issue for Cananzi. Yes, that is Cananzi. Big issue for Brett Cananzi. And that looks like something that you wouldn't do by yourself. That looks like he must have been helped. Modem simulation replay.
So that behind him is Neil Pearson. Get a better look.
Cananzi holding the inside. Cops just a tiny bit of a tap from Pearson. Big wiggle from Cananzi. Can't hold it. Hard into the wall after the straightaway and before the S's, and we'll see it looking backwards from Cananzi. Understandably, Pearson is trying to stay, in the slipstream as long as he possibly can, but he waited just a tiny bit too long to pull out. A little bit of a tap on the back of Cananzi sends him around. That's unfortunate because he was having a great race. Up around 7th place, 6th place for Cananzi, and now a lot of damage. He might be a retirement from this race.
Just seen a couple of drivers jump into the pits. This is about the point where drivers can make it home. Those drivers being Zach Hanlon, Cameron Dance, Daniel Benefield and Corey Preston, who's come in, and it looks like he's changing tyres. We're watching Silvassi, Pearson and Lobb. I wouldn't be surprised if the stewards have a little chat to Neil Pearson and maybe give him a drive through the pit lane.
I think he's already been served one.
It looks
like
it.
Very, very quick.
Yeah, well, that was too hard a decision for race control to make either.
When we saw Cananzi in the wall there, I said there's no way he's gone and done that by himself, and I think that's why it's pretty well slam dunked. Pearson in right now, serving that penalty. Again, it's battle where Hayden Benefield has gone and grabbed that spot away from Richard Hunter compared to when we were looking at it earlier and Hunter was in front. So Benefield now going to try and get away up the road. He's 18 seconds away from the lead though, and he's got a couple of seconds to get to the next car up the road.
I say it's good little bragging rights for Hayden to be in front of Daniel, which we know Daniel's usually off. We just cut away from that battle and around goes another car. It's Richard Hunter facing the wrong direction. We'll see what's happened there. I think this one might be a little self-spin though. But the Benefield brother battle, Daniel wins that a lot more than Hayden, so Hayden will have some great bragging rights at the moment, but...
Grass on the exit of the corner there for Hunter. Just put the outside rear wheels off the pavement, and your car's fully loaded there, trying to open up the throttle on the exit of the corner, and that's what's gone and looped him around. Live pictures at the lead of the race.
Yeah, change of position with Bird through on Ross Rizzo. Rizzo's dropped a second back, so something's happened to Ross Rizzo on that last lap or the lap previous, because that may have happened a little while ago. But now Bird
Rizzo
is
was
starting.
about 5/10 off
Yeah.
on the last lap. And as you say, yeah, Alexander Bird now up into second place. Gives Piesnik in the lead teeny bit more breathing room. They're not quite breathing down the back of his neck at the moment. Top 5 then is Piesnik, Bird, Rizzo, Thomas and Healy.
It's been a good little battle here to see if Bird can save enough fuel to jump Piesnik in the pit stop. This track is very, very demanding on fuel because it's so much 100% throttle. While there are some nice long sweeping corners, it is tough to save fuel because you're so late on the brakes. You don't want to give up too much momentum by getting out of the throttle early. So not the easiest circuit to save fuel on, but it is possible to save a little bit, which Bird, we've seen all season long, is very, very good at.
And that's being exacerbated by these track temperatures where you can brake late, so you're on the throttle deeper towards the braking zones. You can get on the throttle earlier, you spend more time, more percentage of the lap at wide open throttle when there's more grip available. So that's also conspiring against the fuel consumption right now. The track temps are a little bit cooler. It was a good run onto the back straight last time around from Bird, closed him up just a little bit on Piesnik, but it seems like through the fast corners, Piesnik has the advantage. The BMW looks good on the brakes and good through these slower corners here. You see how much Bird closed up on the brakes right there, and that puts him directly in the slipstream, just a couple tenths behind for this long back straight.
He looks strong, doesn't he? He just looks strong on the corner exit, just Bird, but then that speed in the Ferrari just not quite able to get it done yet. But this is the closest he's been, and out of the throttle early to make sure he doesn't get the move done. It's looking now like there's a little bit of gamesmanship going on here. Bird happy to sit behind and save fuel. In the background, Ross Rizzo, as we saw, dropped a lot of ground from Bird. Now he's under pressure from Trent Thomas, Darren Lobb, Martin Silvassi also getting into a battle. So Trick guys are involved in all of it, the front few positions in this race.
Sort of bizarre to see Rizzo's pace drop off as significantly as it has there, but other Trick guys still looking particularly good, and one of them, Alexander Bird, still just, that 4/10, 5/10 off the lead, probably saving a little bit more fuel than John Piesnik, and it's just the Trick Sim Sports playbook we've kind of come to expect in Sprint Series Australia. Just use a little bit less fuel, have a shorter pit stop, undercut them that way if you can.
Piesnik looks a little bit more ragged, doesn't he? Especially through Moss there. Just didn't quite get the corner right, ran a lot wider at the exit. Now losing all that momentum and all that ground to Bird, and you can see Bird out of the throttle there. It's 100 metres of fuel saved. It may not be much, it might be 50 millilitres of fuel or less, but add that up over 30 odd laps of racing, that's enough to maybe give you 3/4 of a second at the stop. That's enough to get you a pass done when you're only 2/10 behind.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing maybe 6 seconds of fuel needed from some of the drivers that have pitted under green flag conditions. So if you cut that down to 5 when the gap is less than a second, well, just 1 second less of fuel might be enough for someone like Alexander Bird to jump into the lead of the race. The other Trick guys are just a tiny bit too far back for that, and it's been a very scruffy lap last time for Trent Thomas, who was 1.2 seconds off the pace, so he's not breathing down the neck of Ross Rizzo anymore, and Bird's pretty well the only one sticking with Piesnik at the moment.
It's a 2-car battle now, so go back to Danny Davison and Adam Briggs. They're going at it still back in the field. The other battles have died off a tiny little bit, not too much, but enough. And now Briggs is feeling pressure from Davison. He's done a great job throughout the series. Stoney Davison moving his way forward through the field. Changed car as well, I believe, from the last round. He's given up his championship points now in the BMW. So looking to see how he goes now as we're going to cut away because we go to the front of the field. A mistake from Peasnick. Bird is right there ready to pounce. Peasnick defends for the first time.
Yeah, he was very quick moving to the right-hand side towards the pit wall to defend the inside of turn 1. And Bird, like we'd seen him roll out of the throttle earlier on the back straight, I think did something pretty similar for turn 1. He could have tried to force it around the outside there. Didn't, backed out, drops into line once again. The pressure then maybe starting to get to Peasnick. I mean, the track temperature's probably a little bit too cool to say the tyres might be going away from Peasnick. That's always a possibility as well. And then through here, where he looks the weakest, gets a bit of tyres onto the dirt. He's out very wide there. Bird's now to the inside. Drag race down the back straight. Bird has his nose in front. He's going to have the inside for the next corner. And Peasnick slots back in line behind him. Change for the lead there. Bird into first because of a mistake from Peasnick.
Now Peasnick's the one straight away into fuel save mode. As now he's going to apply pressure to Alexander Bird. It's probably not a bad move for Peasnick to tuck in behind, save a bit of fuel, force a bit of pressure onto Bird, force a mistake because he was driving so much stronger than Peasnick while Peasnick was in front. But will Peasnick be able to hold on to the back of Bird because he is looking really good. He's already got half a second. He might 3 or 4 corners. That's incredible.
Bird looks really strong, really confident through turn 1 and now through turn 2 here, which is a corner that needs a lot of confidence. It's a bit of a blind entry. It's very fast, and you'll be in for a big accident if you get it wrong there. But yeah, Bird again looking pretty good. And towards, it might be a stopped car I saw on my track map on the exit of the corner up here. It's gotten rolling, but these guys are approaching a little bit of traffic. Peasnick just keeps it on the painted stuff. Hanlon not having a good race, is he?
No, he's having an absolute shocker, Zach Hanlon. So his teammate Bo Albert not racing tonight. So Hanlon, the solo Altus Esports car, was second in the championship. He's dropped to 5th after the last 2 rounds. 2 consecutive DNFs. So now in a little bit of trouble championship-wise, as Bird is in first.
Yeah, running 22nd and about to drop off the lead lap is Zach Hanlon as it stands right now. You see him there, and in the background, our lead fight. And I'll tell you what, this is a little bit of battle that we saw between Bird and that is a bad mental blank to draw between Bird and Peasnick there. So let Rizzo close up just a little bit. There's a couple of other drivers who are going to opt for their pit stop now, it looks like.
Yep, so we've now only got the top 10 drivers left to make their stop. Hayden Benefield, interestingly, is the lead driver out of those that have pitted. Daniel Benefield has pitted twice. Of course, one of those pit stops was a penalty, though, so he'll have to come again as 2 of our friends here at SimSpeed TV have a bit of a battle, that being Thomas Hinz and Cameron Dance. Hinzy in the Ford, and Cameron Dance out in his first outing in the FT1 Fitstye car. Cam got rid of that beautiful art paint job that he had on his car. Now driving a normal skin. A little bit anticlimactic because that car was beautiful.
Yeah, and interestingly, both of these guys have been down the pit lane twice. I think once under the safety car and then once again to fuel to get to the end. So they're on a unique little strategy. Of course, we know Dance took tyres underneath the safety car as well. It dropped him a long way down. Both of these guys, I do imagine, are fueled to get to the end. While they're battling over 15th and 16th right now. There's a couple of cars in front of them that still need a little bit of a splash, and there's a lot more cars in front of them that haven't taken any pit service at all.
I think they'll look coming out around at the 8, 9, 10 position, looking at the current times. So they're chugging along quite all right, especially when you look at Dance, who started in 14th. Hinz started 15th, but they were back as far. There's 23rd and 24th earlier in the race as we go back to Darren Lobb. He's looking to make a move here on Silvassi into Moss. It's not quite close enough, but he's going to get the run using that big wide line. Here comes Darren Lobb to get a move done on Silvassi.
Yeah, the wide line ought to have let him get the throttle open a bit early, but I think he had a tiny bit of a wiggle, so it was a pretty equal run between the 2 drivers down the back stretch. But you see Lobb tucks right into the slipstream, and it's pretty high speed stuff by the end of that corner. They come into the S's. Silvassi holds onto it for the moment.
So Vassi's very, very tough competitor to pass, so that would have made it very difficult for Darren Lobb to get the move done. Runs a little bit wide and onto the grass. We're not far off the pit window at closing as well, probably another 2 or 3 minutes, so we'll see everyone in the next lap or so. That will definitely mix up the way this field behaves and interacts in the next minute or so.
Yeah, exactly. With how difficult it is to pass, the guys up front don't want to come in any earlier than they need to. They want to stay out there and make sure that everyone else also has to pit, so they don't end up buried in some traffic and lose their precious track position. Looking again, Hinz is trying to size up a move on Dance. Dance hasn't made a big enough error to let Hinz through. There's plenty of slip angle through turn 2 there. I mean, look at Dance, just high speed, bit of slide, trying to hold on to it.
They both look like they're not handling as well as you would expect. Hinz, the top runner in the Ford GT in this series over the past few rounds, he's been very, very consistent. He's managed to make that car work, but Dance doesn't look like he's coping with the new car behaviour as well as I was expecting. Of course, new team means a new philosophy in regards to car setup, so possibly struggling a little with that is Dance. And Ryan Jerrick ahead, also, David Mulhall, David Benefield ahead have just changed position, so Benefield still the lead driver that looks like he's fueled up to the end of this race.
Pretty expensive mistake for Ross Rizzo on the last lap. Lost a second and a half. Not 100% sure where, but he was right in touch with the leaders of Bird and Peasnick. Has now dropped back a little bit, unfortunately. So, issues for Hayden Benefield. He's off facing the wrong way. A little bit of rally cross for that Porsche. Gets it back on the circuit. Modem simulation replay. And Hayden Benefield, what's he gone and done? I think he's had a slide in the middle of the corner, tried to correct it, it snapped back the other way and he slid across the grass and into the barriers. We'll watch on board, you'll be able to see his hand movements, and you come over the crest here, he turns in, the car starts to slide, he steers against it, and boom, into the wall he goes. Looked like he hasn't picked up too much damage from it, but that's what we were talking about earlier, looking at Cam Dance's Porsche through that corner, is that the rear wants to get away a little bit. As you come over the crest, the track drops away underneath you, and you can see it was 5th gear, high-speed stuff.
Definitely, and very, very tough corner when you've got a little bit of understeer. If your car doesn't want to grip through there, as Benefield found out, goes from no grip to full grip once the car and the suspension reloads. Can end in disaster, and Benefield only a light tap in the wall. That's probably the blessing in disguise for him. He's lost out in that battle between he and his brother. He's now back in 14th. Daniel Benefield is now in 11th position, the lead driver that has made his pit stop.
Bird and Peasnick going to approach the pit entry very, very shortly at the exit of that corner. Neither of them come in. 13 minutes left, and our leaders are all staying out, including like Ross Rizzo, Trent Thomas, Michael Healy, Martin Silvassi. It's a trick train from second on down. From third on down, and it was from second on down before that switch for first position. Got almost all of their cars running in the top 10, but Adam Briggs is going to pit, and that was out of about 9th place that he came in.
Go back to the battle between Hinz and Dance. Hinzy just not quite able to get the move done. It isn't quite game enough to trust the car to throw it around the outside. He's going to dive in the final corner and probably bounce it on the curb a little bit too much. It's absolutely stalled his momentum. He's not going to be able to get past Dance this time by, as they'll rejoin the circuit. Adam Briggs just coming out of the pit lane, and he's just clear. So Briggs has held on to his spot after his pit stop. Briggs is now back in 13th position, about 4.5 seconds up the road from this little battle. It's an interesting fight here. Richard Hunter and Danny Davison in this too. Can't discount those guys from getting past. I think they're happy trusting Hinz to get the move done. But they'll be starting to get a little bit anxious about whether he can get the move done, and if he can't, will they try and make the move to try and get the move done as quick as they can?
Yeah, they've been lurking in the back of shot for a little while there as well, and struggle on the exit there for Hunter. Danny Davison still, as you rightly point out, being dragged along as well. Pretty close for Hinsey here. He's going to have to try and go around the outside again, and didn't get that done around there earlier. Dance has been defending the inside and successfully a couple laps in a row, and that's what led to the desperate lunge down the inside here last time from Hins. Dance again has been covered. Hins is going to get a better exit, gets to the inside for turn 1, does he? He's got the overlap there. Dance has shown he can carry a lot of momentum around the outside of these corners, and he'll still hold on to that position. Cracking battle between these fellas.
That was amazing from Dance to hold on around the outside. We've said that they're running different lines and able to use different lines in these cars from what we would normally see. There's no way that you would see any other car other than these, or maybe an open wheel car, that can do around the outside at turn 1 at this circuit as Peasnick and Thomas come in. Bird and Rizzo stay out, so it's interesting. Will Peasnick be able to get an undercut? Will Thomas be able to jump Ross Rizzo? Will Alexander Bird hold on to the lead? There's only 11 minutes left in this race. We've only got 10 laps of racing to go. This race is absolutely flying by. The pace of the race is incredibly quick. 6.8 seconds for Peasnick. Alexander Bird needs to absolutely smash this lap to pieces. Interesting thing is he's coming up on traffic.
Peasnick took a huge gamble on the fuel last round in Zandvoort, trying to stay out, and it paid off for him then. He's taken a much quicker pit stop than Trent Thomas and Michael Healy, who pitted on the same lap with him there. He's worked out that fuel number and shaved it as fine as he can. Peasnick is gambling it all.
Definitely is. He's trying to make sure that he doesn't need or doesn't use any extra fuel or put in any extra drops that he needs to. Just think Cameron Dancer's had a moment, is into the pit lane, comes
so is Hinsey as well.
Yep.
So a lot going on there. Bird, Rizzo, everyone else presumably going to have to come in this lap. Silvassi as well, and Darren Lobb too. Hinsey and Dance have had a bit of an issue, some slightly separate issues there, and we'll see. So they were approaching Benjamin Brook, I think it was, right in front of Dance here. In the final corner, what goes on? Heading towards turn 1. Dance trying to go down the inside of Brook.
I'm going to say it's here at turn 2 that we've had the issue. And just a slide, no contact by the looks of it. And around he goes, and then, Hinsey just been caught up by Richard Hunter behind.
Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, that was unfortunate because Hunter probably didn't really have anywhere to go. Wouldn't have been expecting. Have a look at how close it is out of the pits though. Peasnick and Bird are literally nose to tail after the pit stop. So 1 second longer stop for Bird, but the pit lane transit time only 0.8 of a second difference. So Bird has done a great job just holding on to his position.
Yep, indeed. Now Peasnick's right behind with 8.5 minutes to go, and Bird, I think, has got that fuel number just exactly right to, by the slimmest of margins, come out of that pit lane still in the lead of the race.
That's all he wanted to. It didn't matter how much of a lead he had, he just wanted the lead because, as we've said, it's a tough circuit to pass at. So making this move here from John Peasnick is not going to be an easy task. 8 laps remaining with 8 minutes and 22 seconds left. This is going to come right down to the last lap, you can feel it.
Rizzo also stayed ahead of Thomas, but again, only just, and those two are now almost 5 seconds off this lead battle between Bird and Peasnick. So them two there fighting over the final spot on the podium behind. The battle for the lead is really now Bird and Peasnick. Great little battle forming up a tiny bit further behind that though as well. There's a couple of battles coming alive in the last 10 minutes or so, now that we're looking at all of our pit stops being completed.
And Richard Hunt has come into the pits as well, so it was...
Might have been for damage on his nose after he got into the back of Thomas Hins in turn 2.
Very possible. But Hins has actually come out of that a little bit better than a few of the others that were in that battle. As you said, Hunter was right there. Oh no, something's happened to Benefield. He's gone straight ahead. That's a failure for sure.
Yeah, technical issue of some kind. It didn't look like a snap oversteer or anything. That looked like the car just went straight on. Let's have a look on board, coming into the start of the S's here. And oh no, he did get a big slide. Tried to correct it, and then once he was out on the grass, there was no slowing the car down and no getting it turned. So actually that was just a little bit of an error. As the track temperatures are rising, all of these guys driving the Porsches, we've seen this. We saw Hayden Benefield in turn 2, we saw Cam Dance in turn 2, we've just seen Daniel Benefield at the start of the S's. These guys at high speed in 5th, 6th gear, really struggling to keep the rear of the car underneath them.
Yeah, exactly right. I'm surprised to see that they're having so much drama, but I think this is the coolest track conditions we've had pretty much all season as well, so possibly they're struggling a little bit with that, with how cool it is. Yeah.
The temperatures, you know, you get a lot of grip, but it sort of, the car's less reactive to a slide. The grip comes and goes really quickly when it's cool like that. The car can just be a little snappy and very hard to drive on the edge when there's so much grip available.
And big congratulations to Hayden Benefield on screen here, holding off Cameron Stubber. It looks like he's going to win the Benefield battle because Daniel Benefield is retired from the race. So Hayden Benefield wins this little battle and around goes Hayden Benefield right on cue. Tell you what, how's that for commentator's curse?
Oh, I mean,
strong tonight.
Delivered very, very quickly. Was that a tiny tap on the rear, or is this what we're seeing again with the Porsches, that the quick change of direction there in the final couple of corners, is that might have been what's undone him?
Yep.
It's all by himself as he's sort of coming through the left-hander and about to start braking for the right-hander. He's still turning to the left a little bit, and he's lost the grip at the rear of the car, unfortunately, and he didn't get the car facing the correct direction quickly again either. He's in the pit lane now, so maybe he needs a little bit of repairs. 5 minutes now to go. We look at the lead of the race. It's 0.5 of a second. Bird is ahead of Peasnick still, but not getting away. These two also aren't getting away from the cars behind. Rizzo and Thomas's pace has been pretty equal to our leading pair.
Yeah, all of the front four all very, very evenly matched in pace. Last lap by Peasnick, slightly quicker than Bird. He'd lost a little bit of ground, got it out to 7/10. He's got most of that back now. So this race is just absolutely bizarre with how it's behaving at the moment. But the BMWs and the Ferraris look like they're okay. It's the Porsches and the Ford GTs that are having a little bit of trouble. The lead ones of those, Adam Briggs in 10th in the Porsche, and now Cameron Stubber is 11th in the Ford GT. Our other Ford GT, Thomas Hinzey's decided to retire the car after that incident before. Another unfortunate one. Hinzey finds himself just in the wrong place at the wrong time a little bit too much, doesn't he?
It certainly seems like it. And you're talking about
all
the
those black cats.
between the different manufacturers here, and Peasnick, the car really looks more under control, more balanced, more drivable than it did earlier on, when maybe he was overdriving the car a little bit and he pushes a little bit wide through the final corner, which you can get away with. But it does look like the balance has come towards him, or he's found a way to drive that car that's just a bit more stable and a bit smoother.
I think you're right there. I think probably the tyres have come up to temp now, and the car just looks like it's behaving a lot better. Before it was on cold tyres, it wasn't quite up to temp, and that was really affecting the way the car was behaving. But Peasnick now is doing a great job. As you just see, David Mulhall has had to come back into the pits for a splash and dash, so he's been in to make his second stop with only 3 minutes left on the clock. I must say, that's a bit heartbreaking to have to come in with 3 minutes left on the clock. Just, you'd almost risk it, wouldn't you?
I mean, I think that's one of those drivers that pitted under the first safety car and just haven't quite been able to stretch it all the way. There's a couple others we might expect to see in a similar boat, not sure. But, I mean, 3 minutes is basically 3 laps around here. There's a difference between going, oh, I think we can just coast it to the line, you know, out of this final lap. If it's 3 laps that you're short on fuel, well, you're throwing away a result to stay out.
Well, it's 12 Ks of racing, isn't it? 3 laps, so it's still a long way to go. As Peasnick and Bird last time by, another 1/10 of a second in favour of Peasnick. He does look really strong, he just can't quite get himself close enough to get the move done. Wondering if he's actually waiting until the last lap to make that really late lunge, whether A is saving fuel or B, just happy waiting and watching because he knows how much of an advantage the second place car is around this circuit.
He might be still having to just drive to a fuel number, knowing that he took 1 second less than Bird in front. He might be just holding on to get that car to the end, or indeed, maybe just waiting till a bit later to try and pounce. But time's going to run out. 90 seconds left. I think they might just avoid the white flag this time. There might be 2 laps to go from here.
Yeah. All of my time it's saying 2 laps to go, so we'll see what happens across the line with 1:12 on the clock. They'll get the benefit of the doubt and go again. So the clock will pretty much hit 0 when they cross the line. So it's going to be a really, really intense fight. 2 to go. Peasnick again, slightly slower actually this time. How's that for times? 0.004 of a second slower. That's as close as you get to evenly matched pace between 2 drivers. 1:12.122 and a 1:12.118. So incredibly close between these 2 drivers. Rizzo and Thomas continue their fight. Still fairly close, but not quite close enough. But this little fight will come down to the last lap. You can feel it that Peasnick's trying to work out where he can set the move up. He's just hanging back far enough that he can save a dash of fuel, work on where he wants to position his car for that final lap, and then attack. It's almost like Peasnick is a stalking bird ready to go for his prey. Just trying to work out which way to get the prey before he goes in and attacks.
So time might be fully expired before they get to the line, but race control can't wave the checkered flag without having waved the white flag the lap previously. So it will be the white flag this time. Time expires just at almost at the same point Alexander Bird gets to the flag stand. Just 1 more lap of racing. The finest of margins is the Trick Sim Sports playbook, I think. So Bird leading the final lap, Peasnick 4/10 back, and he needs to pull everything out on this lap. What has he got left?
One thing that could be interesting and be a factor in this, we said that Peasnick was a little bit quicker on his fuel. Going that extra lap longer, is that going to hurt Peasnick? Will he have enough fuel in the tank to actually make it home with this race going an extra lap? This is lap number 36. Is that going to be have an impact, I should say, on this race? Will Bird hold on purely based on the fact that Peasnick could potentially be short on fuel? This is going to be an interesting little fight. Peasnick's getting closer though. Have a look at how much this draft drags him up.
Bird was just a bit too good on the brakes into Moss though. Took it from 3/10 to 4/10 gap. It would maybe come down to 3/10 coming into the S's. Peasnick, it'd have to be a Hail Mary dive into the final corner. Can he do any such thing to Alexander Bird? Bird saw that coming, had it covered off. It'll be a drag race out the final corner. The checkered flag is there, but Bird has done everything he needed to do to win. Peasnick, 2nd place, and Rizzo and Thomas are going to be pretty close for 3rd and 4th, but Ross Rizzo will just hold it off.
It sounds like Peasnick has just run out of fuel. Michael Healy will hold on for 5th position, Silvassi in 6th, and Lobb in 7th. Going to go back in the field because Benjamin Brook, Danny Davison and Cameron Dance in the battle for the top, the best of the rest, I guess you'd say, the secondary part of the field. Brook holding on from Davison and Dance. Dance, have a look at that late lunge from Cameron Dance. He gets contact into the side of Danny Davison, and now Dance is trying to get past Benjamin Brook, and he doesn't quite get through, does he? Yes, he does. So Dance got 2 spots at the final corner.
Was there maybe a fuel issue for
possibly? Brook's out of fuel, yeah.
Look at a motor simulation replay. All of my money was on Dance to take that final corner dive, and Dance, does just get to that line before Brook, because it really looks like Brook either thought the line came up earlier than it did and lifted off, or had run out of fuel. I need to see another angle to know.
I'll try and get one.
Whether there was room for Dance down the inside. He looked committed to it. He's there. There's overlap, and I think he gets I think he unfortunately just gets turned in on there. So 2 for 1 in the final corner for Dance, and Davison has to make a bit of a 3-point turn, but did actually still get across the line in 13th.
What a race again. Series turns it on, and now the trick cars all go nose to tail down the back straight. There's only a couple of cars missing in that top 6. Well, one car missing out of that top 6 being John Peasnick. As they all push Alexander Bird back to the pits because he's out of fuel.
Yeah, the trick centipede, and I'm not sure I would want to watch that film. No, but here is your finishing order. So Alexander Bird for Trick Sim Sports takes his 4th win so far this season in Epiroc Sprint Series Australia. Peasnick gets 2nd place, and behind them, Rizzo in 3rd. Trent Thomas gets 4th. Michael Healy in 5th. Martin Silvassi in 6th to complete that trick train. 7th, Darren Lobb. Good effort from him there, and he was right with Healy and Silvassi to the end. Ryan Jarrett gets 8th.
Yeah, good job from Ryan Jarrett too. Started in 18th position to finish in 8th position. Go over the page to Adam Briggs and Cameron Stubber at 9th and 10th. Stubber up 11 positions, so good job from him as well. Cameron Dance in 11th position with Benjamin Brook in 12th. 13th is Danny Davison, David Mulhall in 14th. Darren McKenzie in 15th position with Richard Hunter in position number 16. And we go over to the final page. I'll quickly run through them for you. David, Benjamin Johnson, Neil Pearson, the last of the runners, and Hayden Benefield ahead of Daniel Benefield. He'll be happy that he sees his name ahead. Doesn't matter if he didn't finish as long as he's ahead of his brother. Thomas Hinds, Zach Hanlon, Corey Preston, Brett Cananzi, and of course Bradley Ratu with that huge incident. Unfortunate one for him, but that was a very, very sickening impact into that wall.
Yeah, indeed. And wow, what a fantastic race, I think, in Epiroc Sprint Series Australia. The safety car early once again, but then the racing towards the end gave us something of everything.
Yeah, it definitely did. It was an amazing race, and I love this sprint race. Again, this series is just always turning it on. It's such a fun series, and I must say this track was absolutely perfect for this car. It just added something a little bit different to what we've seen in previous races. The next 3 races too are all going to be awesome in this series too, with Virginia next round.
Shortly, we're going to have and try and have a word with our race winner. But before we do that, and we wait for him to come join us in the commentary box, another quick word from our series sponsor.
What I like most about working for Epiroc is that no 2 days are ever the same. One day you could be in the office, the next day you're travelling to mine sites in remote locations. This is what inspires me.
Epiroc Australia is looking for passionate people to be part of our global team and to make a real difference for our customers. If you're ready to start a new journey, visit us at epiroc.com.au. And with that, we have had enough time for race winner Alex Bird to join us here in the SimSpeed commentary box. And fantastic battle from the time the green flag waved to the checkered flag between you and John Peasnick. In the end, you just managed to pip him.
Yeah, that was pretty wild. I actually got gridded wrong somehow. So, yeah, I ended up starting 4th instead of 2nd. And that was actually not so bad. I got past Trent at the very start. And sort of chilled out behind Ross, and then when he lost the toe, he actually just didn't defend when I went to the inside, so I could have a go basically, and managed to get in the toe, and just hung in there, tried to save fuel, and then I think John got into like a bit of mid-race, like the fuel's come down, tyres got a bit hot or whatever from pushing, and got a bit of the shimmies on, and I sort of had this moment of like, do I do it? Like, do I go? And then I realized, like, you can't give up the opportunity to win the race. Like, even if it doesn't come off, you have to, if you see it and you think it's on, you got to take it. So I took it. And, then he had the undercut that nearly worked. And then, I think he got one go at me out of, like, just after the end of the pits. But really, like, I was very the BMW was, very, very strong out of the hairpin. So more or less impossible for him to overtake, which is unfortunate for him, I suppose.
Yeah, and thinking about here at Motorsport Park, a lot of very, very high-speed corners, with the exception of Moss there, where you eventually sort of kind of got through on him. What does that do for the setup for the BMW and for how you approach the race when there's a lot of sort of fifth gear corners around here and high speed, high load, undulating corners?
Look, I think it's just a strength of the Beamer. They, in the most recent BOP, it got a power increase, and that's very much helped it out of the bottom end. We saw that at Zandvoort as well. So we didn't sort of set up around that outside of trying to optimize the diff and make sure that we had good traction. I don't think that really upset us in the high speed, because then we're going and, checking on how the aero is working. But to be honest, like, we don't understand where Reese's speed was in qualifying. Like, he had us by almost 0.3. So clearly, we were good, but not the best Beamer. It's only lucky that he got a penalty that we didn't more or less get destroyed, I think.
If we think more broadly, your fourth win this season, and some of the other title challenges have fallen apart a little bit here, including DNF for Zach Hanlon. You put a big 400 points next to your name, only a couple of rounds to go. Does that give you a bit of confidence that the remaining races, you just need to get a result, just bring the car to the finish line?
Yeah, I mean, Ross has this habit of sneaking up on people. So I do have to keep an eye on that. But, I did see Zach had a bad round, got his third drop, so he's sort of out of it now. But, really, I just wanted to – I decided after last race when I didn't win at Zandvoort that, like, I could talk all I wanted about the podium, but I wanted to win another one before the end of the season. Like, I didn't just want to do the sort of the hot start and then fall off. So I definitely pushed to the maximum in this one. Like, there were a couple of times when I thought I'm probably going a bit harder than I should here, but worth it, I think.
Thanks for coming in. Can you give us a little insight into your race there? Thanks that you need to give on behalf of yourself and Trick Sim Sports.
Yeah, I mean, obviously to you guys and to GLA for everything you do. Guys at Trick, it's a fantastic team, fantastic environment, great support. And then to our sponsors, Trick Custom Fabrications, Night Rider Design.
Well, there we go. Championship leader and tonight's race winner, Alex Bird. Second place, and the man he battled with most of the race is John Peasnick. And the switch to the Ferrari has given you plenty of pace. Not that you were short on it before that, but it just didn't look quite as strong around this circuit.
I'll probably have to disagree. The car was actually really good, to be honest. I happened to make one small error which cost me the lead, and I wasn't able to get it back. But overall, pretty happy, to be honest. The car pace was great. You could see the differences between the Ferrari and the BMW, where I was quicker in the first sector and they're quicker in the last. So it was a good battle all round, and I had one chance to overtake towards the end, and I sort of stuffed it. So my bad on that one. I just didn't get the exit I want. So, but overall, very happy.
Well, you tried to go for that little bit of the undercut on Bird, pitting one lap earlier than he did, and you once again have really cut that fuel margin fine. Is that just what you have to do to have a chance at winning?
No, I just had to try something different. I didn't want to pit on the exact same lap as him. I wanted to put some pressure on and just pit a bit early just to see what he would do, just to throw something up. I knew I was going to come out in clear air. And yes, I pushed the field like everyone would, I would guess, and I ran out on the last corner. But, you got to do these things to try and just get that little edge, I guess.
There was about half a second left on the clock when guys passed the line to see the white flag. Did the race go to the same length, the same number of laps as you were expecting when you put the fuel in?
Yeah, I knew I still had to save a little bit, so like I forced the issue a little bit, just put in a little bit less, and just tried to save as much as I could while going as fast as I could. And then halfway in that last little section, it did, it was still a little bit iffy, which it was the way it was going to go with one lap less or one lap more. But either way, I was still going to make it. I was either just going to push as hard as I could for the last lap and just lift off at the end just to get it home because I had that little gap to third regardless. So.
Well, a race well fought. You finish on the podium. Any thanks you want to give?
Just a thanks to teammate Reese. Obviously, he didn't race today, but obviously helps me get the pace out of the car. So much appreciated him. Thank you.
There we go. And I think just lastly, we go to third place finisher Ross Rizzo. And good qualifying for you, Ross. Just didn't quite convert on it.
Yeah, it was so good that when I put in a time good enough for third, it was actually second. So the boys in the admin did explain that there was a mix up in the time. So yeah, but third place on effective qualifying was absolutely unexpected because Trent and Alex have been setting the pace all week in our servers. So I was thrilled to be able to punch that time in, and yeah, it was really exciting to be up the front for the second round in a row.
How'd the race play out from your perspective though? Because you were in the mix for the win for a while, and then it just sort of dropped away from you later in the race.
Yeah, I think I got a little overconfident in the car. After a couple of laps, I really felt like I was driving on a knife edge, and that typically doesn't suit my style at all. As probably aware, I'm fair. Don't make too many mistakes, but I made so many tonight. It was very, very uncomfortable. I'm not sure if you caught some of my mega moments, but I made a huge I had a massive tank slapper coming off the back straight, and then went, well, if that was any bigger, I'm in the fence. And then basically they had an even bigger one a couple of laps later, and somehow still didn't find the fence. So just got away with it, but it was it was pretty scary driving on a knife edge like that, and wasn't overly enjoying it, but was enjoying the battle. That's for sure.
And on that, the track was very, very cool at the start of this race. Warmed up just a little bit, but a lot of the cars, not just the BMW and not just you guys, looked like you were having a lot of trouble with the limit of the grip in the car becoming very twitchy at that limit.
We noticed the aero wash was incredibly disruptive here. So the car's handling characteristics changed completely, and you needed to really preempt how the car was going to behave. And I think that's where I fell short, because both times I just got into the draft, I lost it again with a huge moment. And then even when Trent caught me, he was struggling with that as well. So yeah, I dare say it was just following another car. The cars are very aero dependent, and once the front grip was gone, the whole balance of the car was really difficult to deal with. So I got to applaud John and Alex, because they were in draft the entire race and barely put a foot wrong.
Now, you are a multiple-time SSA champion. Third place here, it just keeps accumulating to your points total. What's it going to need to take to sneak your way in the last remaining rounds of this championship? What pieces need to fall which way for you to become champion again?
Like always, a lot of luck. Right now, I just don't seem to have the pace, but the last few rounds have been very positive for me, but I do need to work on those mistakes, which typically been my strengths. But to be fair, Alex has just been the class of the field, so I never would have thought I'd be anywhere near championship contention at this point. But the consistency factor has kept me in there. It's kept us in there. There's a lot of trick cars at the front just by simply finishing races, even though some of those races haven't gone to plan. So more of the same. We'll see how we end up.
And thanks so much. Alex has already given us the who gets it done for Trick Sim Sports, but if you get 2 cars in the podium positions, I think that gives you the right to lay it down a second time.
Oh, well, I won't take too long, and I'll second Alex's comments and just extend the thanks to you guys at SimSpeed and the iRacing Esports Network, and to Epiroc, and also a special mention to Peter Jasinowicz, has been working really well on the telemetry to help us find some pace. That's been really useful for us. So thanks very much, Peter.
There we go. Thank you so much. Our top 3 in tonight's round 8 of Epiroc Sprint Series Australia from Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Another fascinating Sprint GT race. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in here with our presentation from SimSpeed TV on the iRacing Esports Network. Plenty more racing on SimSpeed and on IESN from ourselves. Do follow us on Facebook and all manner of other platforms. Keep up to date with what's going on in the world of SimSpeed. And thank you so much for tuning in. I was David Haynes. We had Reese Gardner ever so briefly, Jay Kennedy, producer, and alongside me for most of the broadcast. From us, it's good night.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?